Mercedes-Benz World Racing is a very ambitious game that is also rough around the edges. Thankfully, World Racing 2, the sequel to Mercedes-Benz World Racing, is an improvement in every single way. Mostly.
Hi everyone, as always Patrick here. If you're already subscribed, make sure you turn on notifications, otherwise YouTube won't tell you if I posted anything. If you are new to the channel, make sure you watch until the very end and consider subscribing if you like it.
Okay, World Racing 2. World Racing 2 is a sequel to Mercedes-Benz World Racing, developed by Cinetic and published by quite a number of publishers. It depends on which version we're talking about. If we are talking about the original 2005 release, the game was published by PlayLogic Entertainment. If we are talking about the most recent Steam release or a Steam re-release, the game was published by Unique Games. In this video you are watching the Steam version, which is a tiny bit different compared to the original 2005 release. What's the difference? Or what are the differences? There's only one difference. The cars in the Steam version are unlicensed, which means, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. There is a mod that brings back those licensed vehicles or licensed cars, but this mod only restores car models. It doesn't restore logos or names. That's the only big change, or the only big difference between those versions. There are also some small changes, mostly graphical changes, but that's not important. Speaking of graphics, let's analyze them right now. This is one of those cases where the sequel simply looks better in every single way compared to its predecessor. Better lighting, better effects, everything is just better. So now we know that World Racing 2 looks better than its predecessor in every single way, but what about the competition? In 2005, we had games like Extreme Rally Racer or WR Rally, Car Racing, Cross Racing Championship 2005, XT Rally, Ultimate Baja Madness, R Factor, and of course the big one, Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005. In terms of competition, or when it comes to the competition, World Racing 2 definitely looks better than most of those games. However, this also showcases a problem. In my Mercedes-Benz World Racing video, I've said that Mercedes-Benz World Racing was the best looking racing game of 2003. And in between Mercedes-Benz World Racing and World Racing 2, there was a 2-year gap. Developers simply caught up. That's why games like Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005 look better than World Racing 2. But that doesn't mean that World Racing 2 looks bad. Like I've said before, it's definitely one of the better looking games. It still looks better than most games released back in 2005. But nowadays, the game shows its age. The graphics are dated. Cinetic knew about this, so they did something about it with the Steam version. The Steam version fixes almost every graphical issue and adds almost every graphical option. Almost. there is one thing missing. There's no FOV slider. And here I have to stop myself and ask, you took all this time, like you had all this time to fix literally everything about the game. Everything about the graphics. You fixed almost everything. And you still didn't implement an FOV slider? Shame on you. I also have to ask this. The game is easily moddable and the modding community is still active. In fact, World Racing 2 has the biggest modding community out of every Cinetic game. I mean, just look at the amount of cars you can mod into the game. So, with that being said, I have to ask, how do you change the FOV? Like I've said before, the game is easily moddable, so I believe that there is a way to do it. How do I do it? Is there any modder watching out there? If there is, how do I change the FOV? Please tell me. When it comes to the game's stability, nothing has changed. Or at least I think some things are improved, but I honestly can't tell the difference if you ask me. The original 2005 release didn't crash, didn't stutter, I didn't have any issues, and the same thing applies to the Steam version. To summarize the graphics, they are better in every single way. Let's talk about the story. Mercedes-Benz World Racing didn't have a story. World Racing 2 continues that tradition. You all know what I'm going to say, so I'm not gonna say anything. I would like to rant about the stories in racing games, but then I think to myself, you know what? I'll leave this for another video. So I'm gonna do what I've just said. I'm gonna leave this rant for another video, and now I am going to talk about the gameplay. This is another one of those cases where the sequel is a huge improvement over its predecessor. For those who don't know, in this section we are analyzing the physics, the handling, the damage model, the cars, the tracks, and some other stuff. Starting with the physics and the handling. The handling and the physics are amazing in this game. The handling is grippy and slidey. The game also knows how to balance things out. The game knows when the handling should be more grippy and when the handling should be more slidey. You can also play around with those settings yourself. Sadly, this only applies to freeride modes, but the options are there. I'm talking about the playing around with the settings thing, in case I wasn't clear enough. The handling in Mercedes-Benz World Racing was also like this, but World Racing 2 does it better. The same thing also applies to the physics. The physics in World Racing 2 are so much better compared to Mercedes-Benz World Racing. The physics in World Racing 2 are way more natural and feel way more natural compared to Mercedes-Benz World Racing. For example, when you jump, the cars become lightweight for a split second, and then the gravity quickly pulls them to the ground. That's how good they are. I can't explain this any better myself. The best way to explain how the physics work is for you to play the game yourself, and then you'll see what I mean. Since I can't explain this better, it's time to talk about the damage model. The damage model, again, is a huge improvement from the predecessor. In Mercedes-Benz World Racing, there was a very small damage model. The cars did have some sort of deformation and damage model, but it was very minimalistic and it didn't really look that good and it doesn't hold up that well. In World Racing 2, the damage model is very amazing looking, with bumpers detaching in pieces in a similar manner to the Alarm for Cobra 11 series or the Crash Time series, and the damage affecting performance such as the engine blowing up. What makes the damage model even better is the fact that World Racing 2 came out 2 years before the Crash Time series was a thing, or 1 year before Alarm for Cobra 11 Nitro. Here's a quick description of the damage model. For 2005, the damage model is pretty realistic. Bumpers are detaching in pieces, like I've said before, and the damage also affects performance, like I've said before. I can't explain this in any other way. I guess I can say you have to take my word for it, but then again, you can just play the game and see for yourself. The point is, the damage model is really good in this game, and it's also really good for its time. While we are still on the subject of the damage model, or the damage models in racing games in general, I have to start this quick mini rant. Why does it seem like the damage model hasn't been improving or hasn't improved at all since this game? I'm talking about the damage model for the licensed vehicles, and I really mean it when I say it. World Racing 2 showed that a good damage model for the licensed cars is possible, and I should also mention that we could also see the potential of how good and fun the damage models can be in games like Race Driver Grid and Dirt 2. But no one took notes from the Race Driver Grid and Dirt 2, and the damage model simply went backwards. Yeah, I had to speak from the heart there. I'm sorry. Mini rant over. Now I can talk about the more fun stuff, like cars, tracks, and other fun things about the game. Let's start with the cars. The cars are simply amazing in this game. They are amazing to look at, amazing to drive, they are just amazing overall. The game has over 92 cars to drive, ranging from sedans, sport coupes, concept cars, race cars, and so on and so forth. Not only the game features Mercedes-Benz cars it also did in Mercedes-Benz World Racing, but it also added cars from other manufacturers, such as Alfa Romeo, Lotus, Volkswagen, and the game even has other manufacturers that rarely appear in other racing games, such as Westfield, Rinspeed, Irmscher, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and PGO. Now combine those cars with the physics and the handling. Physics-wise, the cars behave mostly the same, but handling-wise, the cars are different. Every car has a different top speed, every car has a different driving style. For example, some cars are easier to spin out, some of them are easier to drive, some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are just meh. Everything works and everything clicks in this game. That's why the driving and the cars are so good in this game. Adding more manufacturers was a brilliant move from Cinetic. Now you can find a brand that suits your needs. In the previous game you could only drive Mercedes cars, as the name suggests, but here you can drive almost anything you want. Well, almost. Because of that, the cars are greatly improved over its predecessor. Everything was tweaked in the right way, and it really feels like an improvement over its predecessor. Also, can someone tell me in the comments down below how many times I've said the word improvement? Probably a lot, but you can really tell that Cinetic really cared about this game. They thought of everything, and I have to give them applause for that. Man, I'm giving so much praise to this game and I didn't talk about everything yet. So I guess it's time to talk about the maps and the tracks. The game has over 170 track layouts to race throughout 6 maps, including Hawaii, Test Center, Egypt, Italy, Miami, and Hockenheimring, or German GP in the Steam version. Now, I did say that the game has over 170 track layouts, which is still less compared to Project Gotham Racing's 200 track layouts back in 2001, but my point is, World Racing 2 still has a lot of great tracks to race through. So you probably won't be bothered by this number. The maps and the tracks are amazingly well designed, and honestly I have no idea what should I describe first, the maps or the tracks. I guess the maps, since they are a bit easier to describe. The game has 6 maps, as I've said before, and all of them are amazingly designed. Each map is designed in a way that the map is huge and it really feels huge. Each map perfectly represents the environment that the maps are going for. Because of that, the environment in those maps are incredibly realistic and they feel incredibly realistic. For example, Hawaii really feels like Hawaii, and keep in mind this was 1 year before Test Drive Unlimited came out. Egypt feels like Egypt, Italy feels like Italy. As a matter of fact, Italy is actually my favorite map in the game, and so on and so forth. Every map in this game feels alive, with many well-designed buildings, objects, small details, and especially the traffic, which also affects the gameplay, and I really appreciate it. I could go on and on about how great those maps are, but I also have to talk about the tracks. So let's talk about the tracks then. The tracks were made with a very specific style in mind. This is the style I like to call the Expand Rally style. You have those huge maps with a lot of different roads being connected, and since the roads are connected, you can create so many track layouts. And like I've said before, the game has 6 maps and there are over 170 track layouts. Clearly, Cinetic knew what they were doing here. Tracks in this game have a perfect mix of everything. There's a lot of asphalt, there's a lot of off-roading, there are a lot of long straights, a lot of sharp and light turns. The tracks are designed in a way that you feel like this game has everything. And for the most part, it does have everything, and I love it. The only thing I can nitpick here is that when you are driving without assists and without any helpers, and in case you couldn't tell by my footage, I didn't use any assists and helpers, you can get lost pretty easily. So I definitely don't recommend turning those options off for your first playthrough. I also mentioned the fun stuff. Well, I realized that talking about the fun stuff will take too long, so instead I'll talk about the best quality about the game. Speedbox. Speedbox is basically your in-game currency. This game features an evaluation of skills that can vary for positive and negative accordingly by raising or decreasing speedbox, aka your in-game currency. Positive evaluation is caused by drifting, overtaking opponents, performing jumps perfectly, and driving onto wheels perfectly. Negative evaluation is caused by crashing into anything really, such as traffic and barriers, which count as driving errors, cutting corners and hitting opponents, which counts as a dirty game or unfair, all of which decrease the total amount of speedbox. This completely changes the way you play the game, as you have to focus on your driving and being a good driver rather than just driving, you know? Project Gotham Racing did the same thing many years ago, and it's quite possible that Project Gotham Racing was World Racing 2's inspiration for the speedbox. Mercedes-Benz World Racing also had this evaluation of skills, but that game didn't have speedbox. And this game has speedbox, which also correlates with the evaluation of skills. And I see that as a huge improvement. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, everything about this game is a huge improvement over Mercedes-Benz World Racing. However, despite the fact that World Racing 2 is an improvement over Mercedes-Benz World Racing in every single way, it also has some bad qualities, and I have to talk about them. Usually I talk about 3 bad qualities and I just leave it there, but I actually have a lot more bad qualities this time. Most of them are nitpicks, but I also have a lot of serious issues with the game. So let's start talking about the nitpicks first. I have 6 nitpicks and 2 serious bad qualities. Let's start with the nitpicks. There's no online support. That's sad. Many well-known European manufacturers are absent, such as Maserati, Lamborghini, Ferrari, I can't pronounce that one, Renault, Peugeot, Fiat, Audi, BMW, McLaren, and Porsche. However, there are mods that has cars from those aforementioned manufacturers. The Joyride mode, aka the best mode in the game, is only available in the PC version. It's a shame. Some televisions obstruct the speed and gearing, meaning you don't know what speed you are reaching, and to make things worse, there is no verbosity to adjust the screen position at all. That's not good. The car sounds are pretty bland. Like there's just one consistent sound. The cars don't sound punchy. They just sound very monotone, and I don't like that. The soundtrack, while the soundtrack is good, it gets old really quick. However, Cinetic thought about this, and it's possible to play your own music in the PC version using the music manager. But now it's time for the two serious bad qualities, but I will combine them into one bad quality. One bad quality that I need to talk about right now, the difficulty. Oh boy, the difficulty. I don't even know where to start with this. This game is way too difficult. In fact, this is one of the hardest racing games I've ever played. This makes games like Gran Turismo 4 an easy game. No, I'm not joking. And I'll prove it since I have enough proof. Let's start by talking about the waypoint missions. In Mercedes-Benz World Racing, waypoint missions worked in a different way. You had to drive a specific path, well, kind of specific, you could do it in any way you want actually, through checkpoints. Usually there were like 15 checkpoints, and you had a small time limit. Usually it was like 2 or 3 minutes. It depends on the waypoint mission, really. All you had to do is complete this mission within that specific time frame, and then the mission is complete and you can move on. But in World Racing 2, many waypoint missions that you need to complete are frustrating in a way that with a single crash you commit, you can't finish them in time and you're forced to restart a race a lot. Not to mention, World Racing 2 also introduced a medal system to waypoint missions. You didn't have this in Mercedes-Benz World Racing. This is a new thing in this game. You can complete them for you can complete the waypoint missions for a bronze medal, silver medal, or a gold medal. And when you're going for gold, man, you're in a world of pain. The times are very strict and you cannot make a single mistake. If you are an amazing driver, then you should be able to complete this without any problems. But if you are new to the game, you will make mistakes, and like I've said, you can't make any mistakes, otherwise you will just lose and you will restart the race a lot. The worst offender here is the City Whispers mission, when you're driving a Noble M400 and you must drive to the finish line in under 46 seconds. Despite the track map showing a linear track, you're forced to follow the track map, and the result causes you to lose too much time, no matter if you use nitro, or even if the car doesn't lose control or crash into obstacles, making it one of the hardest waypoint missions in the game, and also one of the hardest missions in the game. Why? But wait, it gets worse. Normal races are way more difficult than they should be. Most of the races that you're supposed to win to get the gold medal or else mandatory to finish first, such as 300 SL Classics 1, like a Lightning, or Biathlon PS, are way too hard due to the consistent rubber band AI as the opponents ram you in the back, causing you to likely ruin the race or having a huge boost that catches you. Why does it have to be this way? Why? But wait, it gets even worse. Let's talk about the second hardest mission in the game, Racing with Class. In this mission, you have to drive 8 times in an oval circuit that has 5 laps, using the Mercedes-Benz Group A, while you must also catch your rival to win the race. doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, here's the catch. The car the game gives you is atrocious. You are at every disadvantage here. Why? Why does the developer hate fun? But you know what? Racing with class doesn't even come close to the hardest mission in the game, and one of the hardest missions I've ever played in any racing game once in a lifetime. In this mission, you must complete the qualification by speeding 5 times at 300 kilometers per hour or 186 miles per hour with an average speed of 285 kilometers per hour of 177 miles per hour in an Alfa Romeo 33-2 or /2 Daytona on an oval circuit that has 4 laps. Even if you go to the wrong path to reach 300 kilometers per hour 5 times and an average speed of 285 kilometers per hour, which can be tedious to reach, and when you go back to the correct way, it drops to 283 kilometers per hour of average speed, making the mission almost impossible to complete since you can't even reach those speeds by doing the right path. Why, and once again, why? Why is it like this, man? What is wrong with you, Cinetic? You were this close to making a perfect racing game and you messed it up by making your game way too difficult. To make things worse, no one made a walkthrough on this game, so you can't even watch better players do completing these missions just so you can get an understanding on what you're supposed to do. Oh, I hate it so much. Basically, the difficulty problem has so many layers. Rubber banding AI, why would you even put that in a game? Can we just have a racing game without this stupid mechanic? There are also some stupid decisions, for example, racing with class, the racing with class mission that I described earlier. Why would you give me a terrible car for this terrible mission? Why did you introduce this painful medal system for the waypoint missions? Why did you make missions like, why did you make once in a lifetime mission? You know, this mission, the hardest mission in the game, and many different missions like that, just toned down. Why can't I change the difficulty? I can change the opponent's strength from balanced to defensive or aggressive, but that doesn't do anything. I've changed those settings, I've played around with those settings, and this doesn't do anything. You can also remove the traffic if you want, but that doesn't help you much. Sometimes actually having the traffic on can help you, but that still doesn't change the fact that the game is way too difficult. What you're looking at right now is basically a glorified driving mission number 23 from Gran Turismo 4. And there's a reason why I say that. Why do I say that? Because I can say more or less say that I know what happened during the development. Someone at Cinetic thought that Mercedes-Benz World Racing wasn't difficult enough, so they decided to increase the difficulty. There's nothing really wrong with increasing the difficulty, except for the fact that when you do this, you need to know how to do it right. Basically, so they increased the difficulty, the playtesters told them, hey, the missions are too hard. And guess what? Cinetic didn't listen to those playtesters. Now I have to ask you, do you know what's the most important part of the video game? The video game. Do you know what happens when... Do you know what developers do when something doesn't work as intended with the game? They remove it from the game. The difficulty is just atrocious. Get this out of the game, please. You know what this feels like? This feels like you ate chili before the marathon. And when you are running the marathon, you keep doing the oh stinky in your pants the whole way through. Yes, you got first place, but now you have the big oh stinky in your pants. What I mean by that is that World Racing 2 is an amazing game, but the difficulty drags it down a whole grade. There are some other annoying things about the game, sure, I can nitpick about them all day long, but at the end of the day, these things are here because of another mechanic, or other mechanics in general, and also in general the game worked well. There is nothing redeeming about the difficulty of the game, however. Oops, I messed it up, let me try again. The difficulty has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. In fact, the difficulty of the game is so painful, so hard, so badly designed that I actually looked forward to make this huge rant about the difficulty at the end of the video. Yes, you heard that right. I did this voiceover just so I can complain and rant about the difficulty of an amazing game. And let's be honest, this huge rant made the video way too long. And now, because the video is way too long, I guess I'll end the video here. I want to be clear though. Yes, the difficulty is absolutely atrocious and there are no redeeming qualities about the difficulty whatsoever, but don't let it distract you from the fact that World Racing 2 is an amazing video game, and I definitely recommend this game to everybody. Buy the game on Steam, you won't regret it, and I can personally guarantee you that you will have a lot of fun with this game. No, really, go play it, go buy it, go play it, and have fun. That's all I'm going to say.
But that pretty much sums up everything I wanted to say in this analysis video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Just